CXOTV.news, a flagship brand under Techplus Media Group. I am Anand Sharma from Techplus Media, your host for today's event. We have been running this webinar series titled Marketing Mondays for over a year and a half now, to provide a platform to marketeers to learn from fellow marketing gurus. Digital marketing has been a buzzword for quite some time. Further, it was mandated by COVID to utilize digital marketing since physical means were under lockdown. Now, as we evolve into digital modes of marketing, let's discuss how to make the digital marketing strategies future-proof. Yes, we are not talking about poka-yoke or idiot proofing here, but future-proofing of our strategy so that we have a strategy to fall back upon for a longer duration of time. That's what is the topic for today's discussion. We plan to cover the following pointers: key digital marketing strategies, changing consumer trends and the impact on digital campaigns, importance of omni-channel strategy, new rules for marketing innovation, getting pop culture buzz on shoestring budget, and how to utilize technology for future-proofing when technology itself keeps evolving. We have an eminent panel today. Arun, why don't you start in the alphabetical order?
Good evening, Anand, and thank you for having me on the panel. I'm excited and looking forward to engage with my fellow panelists as well as with the audience here on the call. My name is Arun Cavale. I'm the CMO and strategy leader for IBM's cloud and cognitive software business across Southeast Asia. I've spent what feels like a lifetime now in the technology industry, but before that I did spend some time across other industries, engineering industry in particular. So I always say that I started my career building hydraulic excavators, then I built processes, now I build PowerPoint decks. So that's been my career progression, but hopefully through all of those I can add value to this discussion. Look forward to a very fruitful discussion with the team here on the call.
Sure. My name, as it says, is Sanjay Diwan. Belong to an organization called Positive Momentum, which is a strategic and business consulting organization headquartered in the UK. Just adding that because many of you may not know about it. I have a long experience in sales and marketing, and especially last few years have been in technology marketing. And before that, combination of B2B and B2C at organizations like AT&T, Avaya, Philips, Tata Unisys, to be specific. And I'll share my thoughts today with you. Hopefully, I am future-proof too, as I am going to talk about the future-proof future-proofing with digital technology and for the marketing.
Thank you so much, Sanjay, and welcome on the panel.
Thank you.
Uni, please give your introduction, last but certainly not the least. Please go ahead, Uni.
Thanks, Anand. Once again, thank you for the opportunity, and it's an honor to be here with the fellow panelists, with Sanjay and Arun, to share some insights about marketing strategies and digital. So my name is Unnikrishnan, and I lead the marketing efforts for Palo Alto Networks. We're a leading cybersecurity company, and I've been with this company for close to about 7.5 years. I come with almost about 25 years of experience across sales, marketing channels, alliances, having started my career in a sales organization and evolved to kind of getting into doing something which I love, which is marketing. So I look forward to the session, and I hope, as much as fun that we're going to have, your audience is also going to have some good, takeaways from the session.
Thank you so much, Uni, and once again, welcome on the show. Guys, we all know digital marketing. We are from the marketing fraternity. Or what is digital marketing? But believe me, there's still a buzz around in the town. I happened to visit tier 2 cities last year, and the college pass outs were saying that they wanted to do a course in digital marketing and make a career out of that. When I asked them what is digital marketing, the response was marketing on Facebook, YouTube. However, we always start with the basics. So we need not discuss what is digital marketing, but certainly we would discuss the next level in terms of strategies and future-proofing them. Well, let's learn what our panelists have to recommend today. The views expressed by the speakers are their own and may not represent the viewpoint of the organizations they work with. So Arun, starting with you, strategy is the most misused word. Okay. So what is the strategy and what are the three ingredients of a digital marketing strategy?
Sure. So I think we all speak a lot about digital this, digital that, digital marketing. I think everything is digital. So I think it's prudent that we start with painting a common picture of what exactly is characterizing this digital era, right? And then we can look down and fold that into the strategy elements of digital era, right? So when we look at the role of marketing discipline and how that plays into this digital era and therefore the implications for strategy, what comes to my mind is how much the world has changed. I think that I found very interesting. This is an actual newspaper advertisement from 1991. Oh, there you go. It's from, for some of you who may be familiar, Radio Shack is a US national retailer of electronic gadgets, right? This is an actual newspaper ad. It's a full page ad from 1991. I find this extremely interesting, and I can never tire giving this example because this is so fascinating, right? This is one full page of ad. It's got things like a personal computer, it's got a telephone, it's got a dictaphone, it's got a little Walkman out there, it's got a music player, video cam, and so on and so forth. If you line all of these gadgets together, it will probably take up half a room or probably 3/4 of your room. But look at how much technology has changed. All of this fits into the size of your palm today. All of this is your mobile phone today. A simple smartphone holds all these different gadgets in this 5 or 6 inch form factor. And it's just not that, right? I mean, just to give you another perspective, your mobile phone today has more computing power than the computers that put man on the moon. You know, Apollo 11 moon landing had lesser computing power than what you have in your mobile phone. I'm sure there's more you can do out of this phone than just, you know, sharing TikTok videos, right? So this obviously changes a whole lot of things and changes a lot of things both on the demand side and the supply side, right? So let's look at what are those changes on the demand side, and then we look at what are the changes on the supply side, and therefore what are the implications on a strategy, particularly for marketing, right? On the demand side, you know, clearly there's a significant and dramatic change in customer expectations. I will submit 3 specific changes, right? A, mobile and social engagement platforms are taking center stage, right? I mean, customers want to be engaged and they want to engage you as a company, as a brand on mobile and social platforms, right? Nobody, you know, you can't say I'm going to put up this storefront. You can't say I'm a traditional bank, here are my branches, you want to transact with me, come to my branch. That doesn't work, right? You present yourself at the point of requirement, at the point of need, as opposed to saying come to me, right? B, I think there's this, enough has been said about hyper-personalization and how analytics is driving hyper-personalization, right? No customer today expects you to treat them as part of a segment. Segment has become an obscene word today, right? I mean, people are individuals. People are not segments, and they expect to be treated as individuals. And finally, number 3 is responsiveness in real time, right? I mean, gone are the days where you could say, I'll come back to you in 24 hours. There's no 24 hours. It's here and now, instant gratification. So these are changing customer expectations on the demand side. On the supply side, we have seen equally dramatic changes. Why? Simple. Tremendous growth in instrumentation. Instrumentation of nearly every single aspect of business, which is therefore thrown up tons and tons of data. I mean, businesses today have the opportunity to completely reinvent their business processes, right? And lead their industries with digital transformations. Now, this again takes the form of 3 specific things, right? I'm putting it together in convenient buckets of 3, so it becomes easy for us to, you know, grasp, right? So A, if you really look at what is happening to decision making is moving to the front lines. You know, new apps are consolidating decision making capabilities at the fingertips of people who actually need that information to act on. I'll give you an example. Technicians today they don't need to just take, reports, then go back, send it to somebody else to analyze, and then come back to you in 24 hours. No, technicians have the information today and the empowerment today to take decisions, right? If you go to a hospital, any leading hospital, the people at the triage, the nurses are empowered to take a decision today. It's no more about let me check and come back to you, right? And I can give you example after example. Police officers, maybe the last example I'll give. Police officers today, gone are the days where the police officer would come, take a report, go back, feed the information back to the investigative wing, who would then do the analysis, investigation, and come back and feed it to the policeman. No, today the policemen have enough information at their fingertips. They can cross-check, culprit or an alleged crime against some databases, and then give you instant, take instant action. So decision making is clearly moving to the front lines. Processes are becoming more insight driven, and not just insight driven from a very standard, I have some information on my database, right? It's non-traditional information sources that's driving decision making and process changes. And finally, innovation is not the fiefdom of innovation team, right? It's becoming more ecosystem based innovation, right? Distributed innovation. So obviously these are changes that are happening on the supply side. So quite simply, the role of marketing therefore is to help meet those changing customer expectations that we spoke about on the demand side by facilitating, and I would argue in many instances, not just facilitate, but actually lead or drive the supply side shifts. How we do that is essentially at the heart of marketing's strategic intent. And we can talk about digital marketing, we can talk about the larger mission of marketing, but the gist of it is marketing's ambition, marketing's mission is therefore how do we facilitate those supply side shifts in support of meeting those demand side changing expectations. So I will leave it at that. I think as we go on, if there are additional questions, I'm more than happy to answer them with some specific examples.
No, thank you, Arun. You made me thinking, and thank you for putting it so well together. Okay. So taking it from here, Sanjay, coming to you, how do you see, the overall digital marketing scenario evolving, or rather fitting into the overall corporate strategy landscape of an organization?
So yes, digital marketing is here to stay as a corporate strategy component, and now we have seen in last 1.5 years how important it has become to include digital as a marketing strategy component. If we look at marketing, how it has been evolving, I agree with Arun, and it's fact that marketing has evolved from the Kotler days of 4 Ps of marketing, moving into 90s when it became very customer centric, to 4 Cs later on, and then as came the digital. And a great example of digital is Amazon, which has come on internet and always been there. But as we saw, it evolved to get into print media, and especially in India, we've seen so many times that every time that Great Indian Sale, it was multi-channel. It was coming on digital, it was coming on print media. So marketing and digital are not too isolated. Traditional marketing will continue to stay. And the other part is that while marketing traditionally drives the push at the marketplace, digital is getting that hook and creating the pull in the marketplace, engaging with the customer one-on-one, or engaging in a manner that he is enticed or excited to buy your products or services. We are witnessing the market showing indications or the trends are it's very dynamic. Exponential opportunities are coming up. Another great example at this point when I'm saying exponential business opportunity is if we look back, traditional marketing or digital technology has been there for a decade now. And a lot of innovation is happening, new strategy, new thinking has been coming. One fine example was the Olympics of 2012, when Adidas outbid Nike for the sponsorship. And you know how valuable the sports sponsorships are for a marketeer's budget. And everybody, so Nike went back to the blueprint and said, okay, no problem. And they created a campaign which outperformed the Adidas sponsorship. The returns were multifold for Nike. You can always look up for more pointers on the case study, but it did change the scenario totally for Nike in terms of the sales that they had. Maybe I can share with you. The volume of sales was 2.1 million for Adidas versus 4.5 million for Nike. So it was a great. And what did they build on? They had a very creative, innovative. So innovation is there to stay and will continue to be there. It says good is imperative, but greatness is a choice. And what they did while Adidas had blocked all the sponsorship with the champions and Hussein likes of Usain Bolt, but they went to young aspiring athletes, gave them the golden Nike shoes, and they made them run and they created the campaign. It was just humongous in terms of return. So I think digital is always there to stay, and how you're going to leverage is going to be a key component of the corporate strategy. One can say the statistics also shows the global ad spends in 2021 after the pandemic and people having looked at what happened, 46% of it will be digital and rest will be traditional marketing mix. So again a great change which is happening, and maybe the change can be well understood by the statement I will quote from the CEO of Salesforce, which is one of the leading digital platform icons in the world today. Mark Benioff said the world is reshaped by convergence of social, mobile, cloud, big data, community, and other powerful forces. The combination of these technologies unlocks an incredible opportunity to connect everything together in a new way and is dramatically transforming the way we live and work. So I think it summarizes what the change is happening, what really one is looking for. And if I also look at contrast even the traditional, the large organizations, they are again going to do that 60% budgets would be mostly on digital, 40% on traditional. And what matters to a marketer is how to create those seamless campaigns where your traditional reach and the digital reach to the sites, the consumers is not disrupting each other, as well as is always complementing each other. Other thing that traditional marketing will always outperform is the engaging with the senses. While digital has only two, audio and the visual, the marketing has the ability to do the take care of the five senses. As an example, if you walk into a shopping mall and then the food court, there's a Chinese restaurant which is sampling some of its snacks, you as a consumer is being encompassed by the marketeer in all the five senses and ensuring somewhere you are getting the hook and coming back to that Chinese restaurant to have your food. So again, the customer service will change with the digital. With the physical presence, while it is there with the stores, with walk-in customers at these stores, but digital has to complement in a manner where it is enhancing your outreach in the marketplace. And we have huge number of examples, Make My Trip in India, and so many ones which are there who have shown that digital and having physical stores or different traditional marketing is a great mix. So digital marketing is there to stay in the corporate world, and it's just that one has to look at, remember the past, as well as embrace the future by future-proofing your success. And I'm sure that all corporates, big, will have a combination of digital and traditional marketing, while small ones may do all budgets on the digital, SMBs and the SMEs. largely focus on digital marketing. Over to
Absolutely,
you.
Sanjay. Sure. Thank you. While you were mentioning about five senses, I was able to correlate what Arun mentioned about hyper personalization, right? So corporates are looking forward how to create unique experience for their customers, right? And that's true. So when the channels are limited, you have more or less only digital to for last 1.5 years we had only digital to reach out to. This becomes a very critical component of corporate strategy. Only what are your views? How digital marketing strategy? We all know it's very important. There's no dispute about it. But how it can make or break a corporate plan? Or should I ask what should be taken care of? What are the different strategies? Please go ahead.
Yeah, Anand, and good insights from both Arun and Sanjay, and kind of ties in with what I'm also thinking about. But the most important piece is I want to kind of elevate the conversation. I mean, you said what's going to make or break. My first fundamental point of view on that would be what's your business strategy and what's your marketing strategy. Digital will follow. Digital will be a subcomponent on how you take your marketing strategy in front of the customers. And a couple of these things have never changed. I mean, the way we used to market, and I'm not talking about the mediums or I'm not talking about, how we would go in front of our prospects, but think about even, 10, 20, 30 years back. The first and the most important piece, which were the successful companies? They understood their target markets, they understood their target personas, right? That was the first fundamental thing. The second important thing was what was the value proposition you took to your target audience? Right? What were you communicating to them? How were you differentiating from them? There were a lot of companies who were leading companies even many, many years back who were thinking about data, right? Maybe you may not have a data analyst 10, 20 years back, but they had research, they had data, they knew what they wanted. The fourth important piece would be the focus, right? I mean, look at again organizations which companies have been maniacally focused on their customers, focused on fixing a problem statement. They have been successful. And the last part would be the passion piece, right? How do you kind of be passionate with the people, with the processes, with everything that you do? And your business and your marketing strategy starts with that. After that is where the digital strategy comes in. And I think today as marketeers, the advantage we have is, in fact, I would argue on, and you said two forms of digital. I would say there are 5 forms of digital, right? We're talking about digital devices, we're talking about digital platform, we're talking about digital media, we're talking about digital data, we're talking about digital technologies. Now, if as a marketer, you take all of these things and you kind of imbibe that with your strategy, that's where your success parameters start coming in. Right? You start fine tuning what the customer wants right from the time the customer is thinking. And I use this analogy in my own company, from the time a man, woman, and a child, and my team laughs about it, thinks about cybersecurity to the time they buy, we should be touching them at every given point of time. And that's where your marketing strategy and your digital strategy comes in, because mistakes that a lot of marketers and organizations do is a siloed approach. Oh, I've sent a direct mailer. That's it. I've done a webinar. That's it. I kind of ran a nurture campaign. That's it. And that itself is what breaks or fails your strategy, because, right from thinking about the personal persona or the buyer's persona to the time he or she starts thinking about you, to the way you take it to a level by which you're able to be in front of a customer and talk to them, that's where your digital strategy success comes in. Bring in the COVID scenario today. You bring in one more complexity. You cannot be in front of the customer to sell to him. And that's where the responsibility on marketing is even more, because gone are the days where you would say, 60-70% of the funnel marketing influence, the last 20-30% is where the sales guy would physically go and close a deal. Today, in many industries and many companies, you got to might have take it to the level where the last mile marketing plays a key component, right? So this is how I would say strategies have changed and evolved. And I think the most important part for the whole aspect of what a successful digital strategy would be is knowing your customer and walking the journey with the customer all the way to a closure. And that's what defines a good strategy. If that answers your question, Anand.
It does. It does. I was checking my notes. It's extremely enriching discussion we are having, and thanks, Sunny. So, of course, yes, the pandemic threw a very new and weird sort of challenge of closing it as well. And you were very right because, yeah. Arun, what are your thoughts? How do you see digital marketing fitting into though I think Puni has covered it very well.
Sure. Hey, Anand, your voice broke at some point, but if I gathered it right, you're asking me to weigh in on what Uni just commented. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Cool. So, well, look, I'm 100% with what Uni just mentioned, right? I think we should really, as marketers, elevate the discussion to a marketing level before we start to divvy that up into discrete swim lanes called, digital marketing or what is opposite of digital marketing, non-digital marketing or traditional marketing and what have you, right? Because I think it's not doing justice to marketing capabilities, neither is it doing justice to the client journey by creating these hard-coded artificial barriers, right? So let's just take a step back. I think the discussion has been around strategy, corporate strategy, and the role of marketing and digital marketing. So I think it's important for us to get to the root of what is it that we are trying to achieve, right? I mean, if you go back in time, I would argue that from time immemorial, right, corporate or business strategy has been very simply making a choice of A, growing revenue, or B, reducing costs, or some form of combination of A and B, right? That's as simple as it can get. You can put different colors within those lines, make it whatever color you like, but the boxes are going to be those two, right? Grow top line, reduce costs, or some form of combination of that. So every other strategic choice, as I said, is an expression of these two, right? And therefore, the question is really how can marketing or digital marketing in particular dovetail into this framework of choice that you make as an organization, right? So to answer that, it is worth revisiting our own collective mission as marketeers. I mean, as you think of the role of marketeers, for the longest time, marketers have really had, again, going back to my favorite number 3, right? 3 big marketing responsibilities, right? I mean, A, marketers have always been responsible for knowing the customer. I think we talked about it, right? Knowing your customer. B, marketers have always been responsible for defining what do you want to market to them and how you want to market to them. The classic segmentation, targeting, and positioning, and taking it through the whatever 4 Ps, 4 Cs, whatever. I think there was a 5th P that got introduced, right? Number 3, marketers have always been the custodians of the brand. So you have the mandate to protect the brand promise. Now, are these yesterday's responsibilities that are irrelevant today, or are they today's responsibilities that did not exist yesterday? Neither, right? These are timeless responsibilities for the marketing function. It used to be the case 40 years ago, so it is today. So that really begs the question, if the responsibilities of marketing have not changed in 40, 50, 60, 80 years, should our strategic intent be any different, right? I would argue no. I mean, marketing strategic intent continues to be the same. It still continues to be, how do you identify pockets of a market that has a need, or where a need can be created, and serve them with the right offerings at a right price in a way that makes sense for the business, brings value to the customer, while building on your business, and while building on your brand. That's really the eternal mission of marketing, right? That doesn't change, right? However, how you activate these responsibilities has changed, right? The delivery mechanism has changed. With technology, of course, now being infused into practically every aspect of commerce, right? The craft of marketing obviously has to go a change, and it has undergone a change. But we must be careful about differentiating strategy from formats. Formats will come, formats will go, but I think the responsibilities which are evergreen, timeless, and the strategy that accompanies those responsibilities do not change and have not changed is what I would argue with, right? Now let's look at therefore the changing formats. I think again, Uni spoke about that briefly. If you look at the formats and for convenience sake, let me try and bucketize them in some form of, convenient buckets, right? If you look at all the way from 1950s to, I don't know, maybe 2000, let's pick a convenient number, right? Before the .com era, we had what you may call, the traditional marketing, right? Which basically used trade exhibitions. Depending on the industry you came from, trade exhibitions were big. Direct mailers, database marketing and direct mailers were the rage back in 90s and yeah, all the way even early part of 2000s, 2002, 2003. It was all the rage, direct marketing, DMs going out, right? I mean, we all know Reader's Digest. Who doesn't know Reader's Digest here? And we all know how Reader's Digest built a business, right? So it was all about direct marketing. And somewhere in 2000, and I would argue for the last 20 years, right, till COVID came and changed everything, we saw the rise of digital marketing. And unfortunately, we took this big swimming pool, carved out one lane, and called that swim lane as digital marketing. So what did we do? We let digital marketing run on its own while the rest of the marketing organization took up the rest of the swimming pool. And then over the years, that one swim lane became 2 swim lanes, became 3 swim lanes. But what we continued to do was keep digital marketing as something that is hardwired with a fence between digital marketing and everything else in marketing. You had a digital marketing specialist. In hindsight, why would you want a digital marketing specialist? How is it any different from TVC specialist of 1990s? How is it any different from database marketeer, right? I mean, I think we some way lost track of strategy and formats. We mixed up formats to strategies. So I think that's the first piece that I want to call out. Now, what COVID did, and thankfully did it as a favor, was really shine a light on this artificial division, right? Because 2021 and moving forward, I would argue, is really the dissipation of that artificial barrier. Today, if you say I'm a digital marketing person or I'm a non-digital marketing person, I mean, personally, I laugh at this distinction, because today it's really a hybrid, right? You do what is necessary. I mean, yeah, the customer journey takes precedence over everything else. It doesn't matter whether you call your team as these guys, digital guys, the non-digital guys. It's all artificial. You got to sit back, look at what is the customer journey. Parts of the customer journey are best fulfilled digitally. There are parts of the digital journey which are best fulfilled in a more intimate face-to-face setting. So horses for courses, right? So my submission here is, let's not be caught up with Facebook marketing, Twitter marketing. I think that was your introduction, right? When you speak to youngsters, that's what they want to be, right? YouTube marketing and content syndicator and whatever you have, right? These are all formats, these are all vehicles, right? So let's not be caught up with all these fancy names. The most important ingredient of any marketing strategy still remains the same. It's putting the customer in the center, treating that customer as an intelligent person, right? Person who has some rational thinking, has some emotions, has some self-respect, and definitely has a need for personal data privacy, instead of treating that customer as a prisoner who's on parole, right? I mean, that you need to track every single move. Wherever this person goes, you want to track that person, put up a gated asset every time this person wants to learn something. I think this is the bane of marketing today. Just because we have the ability to track, we assume it is appropriate to track. Yeah, I think, anyway, I can go on this topic. It's one of my pet peeves. Instead of focusing on creating real value, we are focusing on what I call as metric myopia. Instead of measuring what matters and doing those things, what we are doing is we are doing what we can measure. So anyway, it's a big hot potato topic. I will leave it at that. But in summary, let's focus on doing the right things, putting the customer at the center, charting the customer journey, and picking whatever format works best for that part of the customer journey, as opposed to declaring ourselves as loyalists to digital or loyalists to traditional marketing.
Anand, can I pick on from Arun and
Yeah,
Sanjay, if you don't mind? Right, so I
please,
want to kind
please.
of pick on, and there's some good interesting angles that Arun brought up, and actually I have a similar view on this, and I would say it's not just the digital marketing. I mean, in today's world, you've got to be a transformative marketer, because you cannot be marketing like a dinosaur, because the whole world is changing, and if you're not doing that, you're going to be left behind. So it's really about being transformative and understanding your customers and mapping it. Now, where I would argue to an extent, well, it's not an argument, but where I would bring in a highlight is, in olden days, your consumer walks and sees an ad in a paper, walks into a railway station or an airport, sees another ad, gets a direct mailer, attends an event. These are the multiple touch points. Those touch points have obviously evolved to the digital touch points, right? Because in most of our industries that we're living in, you have your consumer or your market, your customer, who is pretty digital savvy, and COVID has obviously accelerated that. And I've got tons of examples of cultures or countries where you would have thought that they would never be digitally savvy, and they're like catapulted themselves. So I think as a marketer, where you have to now start thinking is, how do I kind of touch your consumer at every given point of time? And that is where this whole transformative me starts coming in. I think going beyond that, and again, these are where organizations make mistakes, is they start siloing themselves in front of their customer. How you would do a pre-sale scenario to a selling scenario to a post-sale scenarios do not talk to each other. And this is again where in today's world the digital piece comes in. But if you were to keep digital aside, as a consumer, what I want, my experience while I was thinking about the brand, to the experience while I bought the brand, to the experience while I'm using the brand, needs to be seamless. And this is again where marketing has to play a key role of kind of defining that. Another interesting angle, which is now happening more and more in the COVID era, is you would have a customer that you could potentially sell to if you're in a B2B space between 9 to 5 p.m. Maybe in the evenings, maybe on a weekend, because the guy or the gal or the lady is not in front of the computer or is not checking or seeing or reading up on your brand. That line has become very thin. Right? I mean, I'm in Singapore at 6:10 p.m. and I'm still continuing to talk, and in a little while I'm going to be surfing on something, I'm going to be reading on something. What it basically means is the way you're marketing, now you got to start thinking about where can you touch your customers. In some communities and countries, we've realized that they're very happy sitting on weekends, reading stuff and watching webinars. You know what? That would not have been a case in a pre-COVID world. Hence, you suddenly have your digital sales / your digital marketing window changing. As a marketer, how are you going to think about it? What product do you have is going to be selling in a good time at what window to your customer? And then there's a whole verticalization piece that comes in, depending on the industries, depending on your personas. The way you market to a Gen Z or a millennial to a C-suite executive are all changing. And again, marketing has to play a very critical role on how you kind of define that, make your messaging content palatable, and build an omni-channel infrastructure in your organization by which there's a consistent touch to everything that you do, which goes to your prospect. So I think this is again changing as we see, and as marketers, we've got to be always a couple of steps ahead, because many a times nobody knew how COVID came. I mean, well, we knew how COVID came, but nobody knew how to market when COVID came. But a lot of organizations built a model, changed things, became nimble-footed, were agile, were in a position to move things around to get things going from a marketing standpoint. And I think these are some of the critical components marketers have to imbibe in themselves as they build their profession, as well as their marketing and digital strategy.
I agree with you, both Arun and Unni. And I think it's clearly about mapping the customer journey. Knowing your customer better is all about, and today the technology gives you so much of insight that earlier we used to talk about cross-channel, multi-channel. Today, I think it's omni-channel because customer somewhere or the other is always present. And you also as a marketer need to be sure that you are touching the customer when he is at that place at that time, and he's about will he make a decision. You rightly said, Unni, the timelines have changed. They have disappeared. It's I remember 20 years ago when the BPO industry came, this buzzword of 24 by 7, I think is more relevant today for every marketeer that it's not operational, it's the marketing, which is you need to be continuously improving yourself, whether you're talking of omni-channel strategy, whether you're talking of engagement. End objective, I think Arun rightly said, for all marketeers is not to walk that or swim that one lane. I think the full organization is completely end goal is the other side of the pool, or where you need to win and win all the time. And that's where I think the disappearance of divisions between silos or divisions between the organizational functions is happening. And similarly in marketing, there's nothing called digital marketer. Yes, 5 years back that existed as a very niche and coming a new talent coming in. But I think all of us have learned that this is not the way to operate. We will have to be frugal in terms of having the investment in people, investment in resources, and COVID has given us that very fine inflection point where do more for less is when we used to talk about it. It's so become so real in every aspect of the enterprise operation, whether it is B2B or B2C. And talking of omni-channel and cross-channel, I think another great example is Pepper Fry, and especially because they started purely as an e-commerce site, and they realized somewhere that they need to do something more and came up with the physical stores, and their sales again climbed up. And I know the COVID did may have given a setback, but then people again started creating virtual stores, leveraging the technology during the pandemic. A lot of physical stores became virtual with the AR, VR technology, and some of the Indian other traditional Goliaths of the Indian industry or the brand is Raymond's, who is transformed itself so very well. Even if you happen to walk into a store, you would be welcomed by a 43-inch digital display with the flavor of the day in terms of fashion for the man. We've always had woman styling very common in India and world, but Raymond gave that flip to the man that you also have an identity and you have an aspiration. How do I really capture it? You want to look for a shirt color? He'll give you 20 shades and you can try it out virtually there. And it gives you that choice. It's giving you that convenience. I think that's what the change is coming, that the marketers are leveraging the omni-channel or multiple channels to really sense out the customer and understand what does he need, and be with him at the right time, at the right place, so that the decision, that journey that he's into his decision making is for your brand or your product, ensuring that it moves that way. And yes, Arun mentioned about matrix. Yes, technology is giving us the matrix, but then it also helps you if you use it as insights for deciding on a strategy of being there or being smarter or using the smart insights, you will be able to decide where the returns are better, where the returns are faster, and where it is changing. And rightly said, both of you and Anand, that digital is not limited to 2, 3, 4, 5. If you look at, I see digital as an extension of word of mouth marketing approach 20, 30 years ago. Digital is just giving amplification from there in terms of using so many channels. It could be a blog, it could be a YouTuber, it could be a social media influencer, it could be so many variety of, and you don't know in reality which consumer is, you can segment them, bucket them, but then you could find a consumer in any of those buckets springing up and saying, hey, I want your product and why not? I want a laptop or a PC, maybe a city like or a rural village because the education has changed. So the market has expanded. The opportunities are humongous, and I think word of mouth is going to be the or is in a different new avatar. Whether it is about buzz, whether it's about viral, we have seen flash mobs, we have seen flash campaigns. I think it's where the marketing has witnessed metamorphosis or expansion rather from what it used, but it's not losing the intent, strategic intent, which was there 40 years ago or 50 years ago. It continues to be the same, that map out the customer, increase the revenue, help do more for less, manage the top line as well as the bottom line. And other thing which I'm witnessing is that the gap between the sales and marketing. Earlier, the demand generation or sales guy would go on a beat, especially for a B2B, go on a beat, meet customers, do cold calls, but that all has changed. Digital is giving the marketeers the tool to also create that demand or create those leads. The funnel, while the consumer is in control for for the first half of the journey where he is exploring, researching, comparing products, but it is the marketeer who can convert that prospect into or a suspect into a client. And so I think it's the reaching the customers at the right time, right place is what is changing everything in the world today. And digital does play an important role there. And similar examples from Van Heusen, Raymond's. I'm also amazed when I, as a consumer, walk in to some of these stores and say, what has changed in terms of first is the retail space, and now with the digital and online experiences that one can see and feel the change from last 3 years back, pre-COVID time, and now.
Yeah.
So
I think
Sanjay, you're absolutely
start taking.
sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just going to close on to what Sanjay said. I think the critical piece on the digital angle is not to lose touch on personalization and the humanization, because I think that's where sometimes people start kind of taking the eye off, and that's definitely going to be a disaster.
I think that was that's what was Arun was also touching base, that to not to make them prisoner of captives of privacy and all, right? So Arun, one submission which I had was I'm totally with you, wherein you said that uh, metrics should be a means, right, and should support, not the end. And also when you mentioned about you know. skipping my mind right now. Let me come back to it again. Okay. So, uh, very valid points, Arun, Unni, and Sanjay. Unni, coming to my next question, since you manage Japan, Asia Pacific as well, what is the difference that you see between different countries? Okay, I'm steering the discussion towards a little bit a different topic altogether. So from India versus now, everybody was digital. Entire globally we were digital, but still, what difference do you see in terms of a Japanese customer or consumer versus Indian versus an Australian or Singaporean?
You know, Anand, I think we're all getting into a phase, and I'll kind of take a step back many years ago when I used to be selling. And I would always tell, whether to my marketing team or even, to the press or analysts that I would interact with, once upon a time when a new technology was being launched, our customers in Asia or in India would say, oh, this looks great, but tell me who in Asia is using that. It could be a new hardware, could be a product, could be a new technology. Tell me who's using that. And I'm talking many years back. I think between Arun, Sanjay, and my examples, the audience will obviously know the age group that we are all sitting in, right? And that has changed over the years, where it got into a phase where I don't care what the others are using. Great technology isn't going to fix my problem, right? And we had a lot of examples where some of the new launches, new products, new technologies were actually being implemented in this part of the world because they were, they didn't have legacy issues in some cases, or the problems in this part of the world were different. Coming to digital marketing, it's a similar story, right? The underlying aspect of digital marketing is, and again, I'm going back to my earlier statement, it's all about your marketing strategy first. Are you understanding and addressing your customer concerns? Are you understanding and catering to them? How are you bringing the value proposition? And the medium by which you use that varies, right? There are different levels of maturity depending on the markets. You've got markets like Korea, Australia, Singapore, who are far high in terms of their digital consumption. Japan has been a pleasant surprise. While you would think, this is not a market which would be very savvy to, digital acceptance or web initiatives and web products, we've seen a massive change in those things. Then I want to kind of, maybe do a 30-seconder on one of the products that we use, which is where we bring in security to customers working from home. And we saw that massively swing in Japan, which told us that customers are definitely, because of the COVID situation, are moving and shifting to home-based working, home-based learning. And when you tie that with how you're addressing, how you're reaching out to them, you've seen a high level of acceptance. Obviously, there are varying levels of whether it's data privacy, GDPR, all of those things that come in different markets. The way you communicate to them, the way you address them, the way they're opted in varies depending on various countries. All of those things obviously has its own nuances. But the reach by which there is an acceptance in today's world in how you are able to communicate and reach to a prospect is far higher today across the board than how it used to be many years back. I mean, it's the same example where my teams would tell me that, hey, the customer can only be sold by sitting in front of the customer. Today, customers very happy, send me stuff. I want to attend, I want to download a white paper, I want to attend a hands-on workshop, I want to look at some more information before I talk to you. That tells you that that market is evolved and really transformed. And I would say, argue that India is definitely on the same pace at which the other mature countries are going.
Okay, glad to hear that. All right, before I move forward, we are almost on top of the hour. It happens very rarely, but sometimes, yes, it does happen. Is it okay if we extend it by, let's say, 15 more minutes? Arun, Unni, Sanjay?
No.
Okay. So, audience, it's getting interesting. Okay, otherwise we don't extend. All right. So, in case you have a question, please raise your hand or ask it in the chat panel, or you can put it in the Q&A box, and I can also unmute you so you can ask your question directly. All right. Cool. So, Arun, what I was sharing was, yes, absolutely true. We also provide marketing consultancy to SMB or SME segment clients, right? Believe me, what is occurring to you very naturally that the digital marketing should be a byproduct of business outcome, right? What is the business outcome, or what's the business problem you're trying to solve? That should flow naturally. It doesn't. It's not that way. Okay, people just reach out to us at times and they ask us, can you do this type of marketing for us? I want to do Facebook marketing. Okay, but what do you want to achieve out of that? No, I've not thought through that, but I just want to do Facebook marketing. Okay, so the point I'm trying to bring to the table is what comes to us naturally, the consultative approach or the right approach of business problem, technical solution leads to business solution, that sort of thing. Sometimes it is not very obvious. Okay, Arun, let me move to my next question, which I had marked for you. Can you share a stepwise methodology how to craft a future-proof digital marketing strategy?
Oh, wow. Stepwise methodology. Okay, can I write a book and then get you guys to buy it? Okay. Oh, that's a toughie. Let me try and see if I can break this down into something simple.
Or
I
you
can't
can
promise
throw
you
in
it's
a
going to
couple
be
of
a
pointers.
step point. Yeah, maybe some pointers. Yeah. So I think I just want to take something that Sanjay shared about 10 minutes ago, which I thought was very important. I didn't want to lose sight of that, so I just jotted that down. He spoke about the need for us to engage across a plethora of platforms, right? Word of mouth, influencers, being there on YouTube, putting up your content on, your website, and so on and so forth. I think it's important for us to be across a plethora of platforms because your customer is going to be at any point in time somewhere, right? So it's important that you are there, no matter where the customer is um, on at any point in time, right? So, and that leads me to this interesting notion that about 5 years ago, till about 5 years ago, Google used to be your starting point, right? So it was so important for a marketeer. I mean, again, going back to some of the SMB clients, right? This is the starting point for most people's digital marketing, right? To feature on Google, right? Either through search engine optimization, or if you want a quick a quick win, put some money, do some SEM, go up on your paid search ranking, right? That's because Google used to be your first gateway, right? People used to look for you through Google, so you got to be on top, and then so that's basically meaning that you are engaging Google at the starting of their customer journey or buying cycle. But today, if you really look at it, it's not the case. I mean, it's not the 100% only exclusive case. Very often I see that customers engage in Google towards the final part of their buying cycle. So for instance, they have heard from, there's been some good word of mouth reviews about your product. They've seen your YouTube video, they have, possibly, heard your podcast, and so on and so forth, right? So, or they, they open up LinkedIn and they saw an email coming from you, or things like that. So you have picked their interest, and then they want to look at, hey, let me go and look at what this company does, and that's when they come to Google and type your company's name. So you see how the story has changed. Instead of Google being the starting of the client journey, it is now somewhere towards the fag end of the client journey. So these are changes that you got to recognize, and that recognition will only happen if you're there across a plethora of platforms instead of saying, I want to do Google marketing. So it's a fundamental shift, which is why I go back to saying, I think you asked me for those pointers, so let me start unraveling what comes to me. This is not prepared, so I may go a little back and forth, so please indulge me. I think the primary piece here is something that I spoke about earlier. Do not stalk your customers, for heaven's sake, right? I mean, stop believing that you can control every part of your customer journey. First of all, I don't even think it is appropriate. Secondly, I don't think you can. Even if in our convoluted sense of marketing morality, if you believe we can, even if you believe it is important to control the client journey, I can assure you it is impossible to track and control the client journey, right? So let's not try and do that. Instead, let's just focus on making sure that we are present. We are present where there is a chance of getting engaged. Instead of forcing a customer to come and engage you in, you need to click on my gated asset, download, sign up your entire biography on my page, give me your contact number, give me your dog's name, give me all kinds of details. That doesn't work. Let's not be so self-controlling. It doesn't work, right? That's my first piece of a pointer, right? Do not stalk your customers. That which leads me to this notion of why are we behaving the way we are behaving, right? It's really because we are letting the tail wag the dog. Metrics were put in place, measurements were put in place because obviously resources is a constraint, money is a constraint, so we want to make sure that ROI is visible. I mean, for far too long, marketing has coasted on a promise of a distant pot of gold on the other side of the rainbow, right? So measurement was put in place, and with new tools, marketing automation tools and metrics, you can track some of them. But what I see today is the tail wagging the proverbial dog, meaning we are doing only those things that we can measure, which means that when we know for sure that engaging with an influencer, for instance, is going to create real business value, but the challenge is you do not know how to measure the ROI of that, right? In whatever 30 days, right? Nobody has, we all live and die by the quarter, right? So 90 days. So if you cannot measure something within 90 days, you don't do it. In your heart, it is the right thing to do. You got to do an influencer marketing. You know that you got to, I mean, Unni and I come from tech space, right? We know for sure we got to engage with developers because they are the users. But we also know developer doesn't have the money, right? So what do? We cannot measure the investment that we make on a developer. It becomes difficult for me to measure the ROI, right? Sure, the developer uses your product, likes it, tells his manager, project manager, who decides to talk to the CIO and buys your product. But that is so 3-4 chains removed that your metrics today, your measurement system today has no way of measuring it. And because you cannot measure it, you do not do it. So what do? You continue to buy some ad space, so you can say, oh, X impressions, Y engagement, and boom, so many leads, right? Again, it's metric myopia, losing sight of value creation because you cannot measure certain things. I think measurement is good, but measurement serves a purpose. So purpose comes first, measurement comes next, rather than the other way around. So that's my second pointer. My final piece of advice is really around, I think something that you spoke about for the SMEs is really, I think part of the issue is marketing itself. We are becoming more and more what I call as profession loyalists. What do I mean by profession loyalist is, I hope there's no accountant or financial professional on this call, because if you look at a finance professional, no matter which industry a person goes, they will always remain a finance professional. Their loyalty is to the profession. Same with legal professionals. That's why they're called professions. They are professionals. Their loyalty is to the profession, not to the industry. I hope I'm making sense here. Marketing is increasingly becoming a profession loyalist, function, which is sad, because the moment you become a professional loyal, you are a detergent marketeer today. Tomorrow you're a technology marketeer. Day after tomorrow you're a healthcare marketeer. You will continue to behave the same way. What it does is actually take the value away from marketing. Marketing, I can argue with all my passion and ardor that marketing is the #1 client-facing function. Marketing engages the client even before the seller engages. But this kind of a professional loyalty makes you a back office function. You're no more a client-facing function. So please understand the product. Please understand the company, please understand the industry that you're part of, and then lean in with your marketing profession expertise, rather than limiting yourself just to the marketing profession in exclusion to the product or the company or the industry that you're part of. So I leave it at those three things. Do not stalk your customers. I think I said avoiding metric myopia, and finally, don't be a professional loyalist.
So I can see you are speaking out of passion, Arun, and that's coming out very well. But then on metric myopia, even if you're a team member, I have a different opinion. Okay, and I'm trying to find a midway wherein we can see as to how to best utilize the tangible as well as intangible stuff that talked about, right? So even if your team member, if he asks you, I want to do X, Y, Z, but that's not measurable. Okay, so we'll say, okay, fine, you do 20% of the time you do that unmeasurable task, right? 80% you give me tangible results, right? So there can be some balance between what is tangible and what is.
Yep. That's leadership, right? I mean, I think as leaders, managers, we also have a role to play, right? I mean, if you play, a type of music, you cannot expect the people to dance in a different way, right? I mean, as leaders, we got to be making sure that the right tune is being played.
I think the advantage we all have today is, everything can be measured, Anand. I think that's the beauty part of the marketing world that we are living in. But having, and to any level, there are tools, there are processes, there are organizations who do that can give you a measurement. However, as a leader, you've got to take a call. You do not want to do analysis and paralysis.
Absolutely.
Right? You'll have data points, you'll have matrices that should help you to get to a goal. Because I would argue the last thing that you want to go back to your team and say, here are 15 matrices that are going to be measured for your success at the end of the quarter. Trust me, you won't be left with anybody in a team, right? If I did just kind of add to maybe one more point or two more points that Arun said, from a future proofing of a technology, I would kind of look at it in three different ways. One is really about, are you ready to get a scale with regards to your marketing efforts? You need to have the technology and the tools to be able to provide you that. I think the second important piece is how integrated and interconnected it is going to be critical, because you can't be bringing in newer things and then you figure out everybody starts working in silos. And I think while it's a buzzword, and I strongly breathe and believe in that, because again, it makes the marketing lives easy, is the whole automation piece. Because if you don't have scalability, you don't have automation, and you don't have, interconnectability in terms of how you future-proof your technology, you're not going to be able to scale up. And I think the last and the most important piece to kind of close on this would be, while you're looking at future-proofing what you're going to do, how nimble-footed are you going to be? Markets are changing, right? Things are transforming. You cannot say, oh my gosh, I have to make a strategy change and it's going to take me 6 months by the time you've already lost all your customers, right? So I would say these would be the 3-4 key things that organizations have to take into account while they look at future-proofing their marketing and the technology within marketing.
Absolutely.
And adding, yeah.
Go ahead, please, Sanjay.
Yeah, so I was saying, just adding on to this future-proofing, I absolutely agree what Arun and Unni just said. Extending on that, my view on the matrix is you need to be smart to take it as insights rather than as matrix of performance and matrix only for ROI, because we always talked in management about lag and lead indicators. Somewhere you have to use it as a lead indicator more and more. And I think the AI and ML leveraging the technologies, we will be able to do as marketeers. And that's about innovating and leveraging the technology. So 3 points. One on technology, it's about going to be how you digitize your shopping experiences more and more. We have seen the e-commerce itself, the product used to come in a two dimension, two vector screen display. Today you can do a 360-degree video uploads on it. Everything is changing. So there'll be continuous disruption as well as changing consumer expectation. Then is about automation, how you automate a lot of data. Okay, I have been part of the marketing for technology, starting with the mobile phones, the Ericsson mobile phones, when the mobiles got launched in India. And we have seen how do you use the data smartly, because data is always available on the telecom networks and now on the IT networks. How are you able to mine that data and use that to leverage to build more automation in your processes? And looking at consumers, understanding their persona, understanding what is where the behaviors are getting disrupted or changed. And rightly said, only it is about transformative marketing and ready for adopting the innovation in the path. And personification also is becoming very hyper personification, because you're able to build in so many more attributes thanks to the technology, and even build in a B2C, a one-to-one relationship with your consumer, and use that as a marketer for your next product development or differentiation, because you may not have known. There's this great example in the Indian history how washing machine was used as a lassi maker in Punjab by the farmers. So there are these innovations, there are these jugaads in India which lead you to become innovative and adapt them into your marketing piece. And I think the other thing which driving the market here for the future proofing is how sticky can you keep a consumer, because stickiness is getting lower and lower. Brand switching is a split second, one mistake, and it's viral. Nobody pardons you for a moment. Nobody. Your customer service has to be exemplary. You need to pre-plan and be predictive rather than guessing earlier or thinking and strategizing earlier. So it's all about being innovative to future-proof what is happening. And just as a pointer for the audience and us, in US last year, they were doubled the patent number of patents filed as of 2019. So thanks to COVID, the innovation, the invention, everything is happening at a faster pace as people have more time, especially getting away from their desk, although the offices and businesses consume more personal life work balance the other way it has turned it out to be. But yes, the innovation is in the works across the world. And as marketeers, I think we will be adapting innovation. It's important to remain be sensitive to future proofing of strategies, because a lot of businesses have winded up in last 15 months of COVID that we have witnessed.
So Sanjay, one question. We are running short of time, so quickly, if you can, give the magic recipe that you recommend to let's say startup or upcoming companies which are on a shoestring budget. Okay, so what is that secret sauce of or digital marketing? What should we do? What should we not do? Sort of thing. Is there anything like that? What is the recommendation?
Yeah, I will just collate from the thoughts that have been circulating, that you need to start with a problem statement, understand your consumer, and assume that the consumer is very creative and analytical and very fickle-minded today. So you need to be sure that what is it that you are going to serve him on the from your stable that will make sense to him today and tomorrow, and how will you keep. So make a promise which is deliverable, and we always used to say in corporates, exceed the expectations set. So you need to manage the expectations of your consumers from you as a brand, as a startup. So you need to be sensitive and cognizant as a marketer. That will be my two pennies for the startups, especially.
Sure. Absolutely. We have a question coming up, and I'm keen to take that one. Let me try to unmute Kishore. I'm trying to unmute you, and you are muted yourself. Can you unmute yourself, Kishore? Kishore?
Yes, I'm here. Yes.
Hey, Kishore. Kishore, please go ahead and ask your question. You can introduce yourself and ask your question, please.
Yes, so I'm country manager at BMC Software. It is not a question as such, but I would want to appreciate all three of you, Unni, Sanjay, and Arun. There's no question. I was following each word of yours, and it was true. I mean, I'm really appreciating that this also go with the thoughts that hybrid marketing is the way. There's no other way around. So digital is only a way. It is not a kind of a separate thing altogether. I really appreciate it. There's no question as such. Thank you for giving me a chance, and it was insightful.
Thank you, Kishore.
Thank you, Kishore.
As a parting note, Arun, any wrapping up comments you want to share with the audience? What they should focus on for future-proofing their digital marketing?
No, I think a lot has been said, and it all comes back to a couple of key messages that has been expounded in different dimensions, right? I think we all agreed the gist of it is really understanding the customer and doing what is right for the customer and for the customer's journey as they transition from not knowing anything about the pain point or your solution to not just buying, but continuing to advocate your product to other clients and becoming your advocates, right? The influencers that you so desperately seek to groom and nurture in the market. So the distance from A to B is what we need to help the client undertake as marketeers, and that cannot be achieved by just saying today I'm going to don a digital marketing hat, or tomorrow I'm going to don a YouTube marketing, or whatever, right? I think it is doing what is right for the cause. Sometimes you do A, sometimes you do B, sometimes you do C. You do what is needed. I think that's where the most effective marketer, I think transformative marketer is what we call that person as, is what is needed. Do what is right rather than be held captive to fixed ideas, because ideas can change. But the evergreen nature and mission of marketing should not and will not.
Absolutely. With you, Arun. Only anything from your end? Any wrapping up notes?
Yeah, it's kind of, I think it came out so well between, what Sanjay, Arun highlighted also. I think just to wrap up, it's, when you think beyond your problems and your challenges from today, it has to start there, right? Because again, when you're transformative, you got to start thinking. I think the second important thing is it's, your challenges of today are not necessarily your challenges of tomorrow. How are you preparing yourself for that, right? Make sure that you are aware. I think the beauty about us as marketeers today, I keep on highlighting, it's like walking into a buffet where you have everything in all shapes and sizes for everybody. You need to know what you need to pick up and how you're going to benefit from it. And as marketeers, you need to know what is your tech stack that's available in front of you. You need to review it, map it to your customer's need and your customer's buying journey, and not take your eye off what competition is doing. Because when you kind of bring all of those things together, that helps you set up for a solid tomorrow. And I think that would be my parting comments on this.
Sure. Thanks, Nick. Sanjay, any notes from your end, Sanjay?
No, I think I like the example of only a buffet. I'll say I'll take the marketeer as a buffet seller, and every consumer walking in has a different choice. You need to have the right mix of product. You need to have right mix of your strategy. And believe me, there I'm just talking about 2 M's beyond marketing. Today, it's about the mix of the product, mix of your campaigns, or whatever it is. And last and the least, which I would leave the thought, is moment of truth. Moment of truth is an opportunity for you. You need to be sensitive, have the organization sensing out, and be ready to listen to the customer all the time to understand and make your strategy future-proof. Dynamic and changing and agile is the word which is the flavor of with the COVID, that stay agile and stay actively engaged with the consumer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sanjay. It's been very interesting discussion. I'm recollecting from my notes that influencer or customer advocacy is getting prominence. Arun talked about hyper-personalization as well as mobile and social platform engagement. But he also mentioned that there's no need to stalk your customer, right? You can't control him. Sanjay mentioned about how to reach out to customers through all the 5 senses. That was very unique, Sanjay. Thanks for sharing that. And Umi did talk about aligning digital strategy as a byproduct of the corporate strategy, right? And then there was some discussion on swim lanes as well. So, Uni, I also remember you talked about walking the journey all the way till closure. Okay, that's the demand for new these times. So, well, we are already on top of the hour, and it's been extremely enriching for me. It's my privilege to host such an esteemed panel and to hear from them firsthand.
For more updates from CXOTV, please like and subscribe to our channel.